All right, we are back with another game review. This one by request. We're taking a look at the Myth World Cup 2007 finals. We've got Thundercocks merged with Paladins and Peacocks, as they were called against the Name Changers. The Thundercocks NP team, are actually two teams that played in the finals of Myth World Cup 2006, merged the best players from Peacocks onto the NP roster. And really were looking like a powerhouse. They cruised pretty easily through this tournament. I think they had a somewhat close match with ABS, but otherwise just totally dominated. 12 tasks. Also had a very solid tournament. Only loss so far came to ABS, which knocked them into the bottom bracket. However, they were able to beat them in the bottom bracket finals in a relatively close match. That took us to this series. So again, Thundercocks is the top bracket champion. Name Changers is going to need to basically win the first best of 7 and then win in sudden death if they're going to come out on top. For context, my team was the Raziel sort of BIA compilation this year and played both of those teams and lost handily. Very solid. I think we only took one game off of each of them. So strong teams. I think coming in Peacocks was considered to be the heavy favorite just because of their performances in 2006 and performance so far in the tournament. So this map we've got Dark Canyon Captures. I keep calling it Captures. Dark Canyon Territories, which is traditionally, you run your 3-trow mid, you've got artillery on the flanks, turns into a fetch push somewhere. And the question is a side able to push through, win that artillery fight, get into the backfield. And then it's almost always a question of tagging at that point in these high-level games. Quick roll check. On the fetch, we have Tiri, Rabikin, and Grim. Looks like Chickenwire actually also has a couple. So they're splitting their fetch a bit more than normal. Ours even has a solo fetch. That's interesting. So they have 2 guys with solo fetches. That seems to indicate they're going to be pretty spread out. Then you've got Zur on Trow, as you'd expect. You've got Tiri with a few souls, CW with a few souls, Rabikin, and Grim as well. So they're going with really a mixed squad approach for all their players, with the exception of Zur, who gets the Trow. On the side of Name Changers, Limp is trowing. You've got Fire on Solus. You've got CU running a Spider Pack. We've got Donsky, Lute, and Shyster on Zerks and Fetch. Zoom here. So something interesting I'm seeing right away. Name Changers is going all west, which is interesting. Where NP is pretty spread out. Again, they're playing this much more traditionally. Where again they've sent their Trout mid, as you can see. They've got squads here that are really able to hold anything that comes through on the east. Similar things mid. So basically even splits all around. One difference here is that Arsenic does have a Spider Pack. It looks like their plan had been to have a little power flank here, where you send a fetch and Dwarf off on a flank to try to catch some folks off guard while everything else just sort of scouts it out. Let's try to hang back for a while before trying to push through. Really, Name Changers are just biding their time, it looks like, to see what NP is going to do in response and also to get their fetch up. So at this point, it's pretty clear to NP. You see Rabikin saying that they're likely full west. NP has a couple of choices from my point of view. They can either start to pull their resources more towards mid to group up to react to this, or they can do what they're doing and start to send some feelers out on offense. So in this case, they've now got 3 fetch and 2 dwarves on offense, where you see Ska is the only one here on defense for the Name Changers. Okay, so interesting here. Looks like a misplay from ours. Went a little bit too far forward with a single fetch. Not sure, what I think he was probably looking to zap the souls, if I had to guess. But now what Name Changers is doing is they're pushing with all of their fetch to get up. Once they get up, I think they've really flipped this game on its head from the way it normally plays out. So I think what this strategy tells me is, name changers wanted to avoid just straight up let's line up and fight, and instead, are looking to gain an advantage by turning this into, a game that no one is used to playing, and two teams fighting, both on the west side is not certainly not a way that I've ever seen, this game type and matchup play out before. So, just hot takes in terms of who looks to be in the best shape here. I really like where the name changers are at, even though they're way down on tags. They've got the ability to hold this for quite a while. It's unlikely on a map with this many tags that NP can sneak enough through to both tag them out and take this defensive flag. You've got a spider here just in case you need to retag this flag as well. And because you've got, again, 3 fetch, that are now on offense, in addition to a couple dwarfs and souls, you do have the ability, it would appear, to really BC this down. Because if you've got at this point, they've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They still have all 9 fetch alive. I would think they'd be able to push through and really just BC this. I think the one thing to call out is that it is only 7 minutes left in the game. I think this had a 12-minute time limit to start. So I think name changers are on a clock. They need to take advantage, or on a timer. They've got to take advantage of this BC power that they've got and kill enough of NPCox's units that they still have time to spread out and tag. Yep, speeding up a little bit here. As you'd expect, they are pushing. Like I said, there's not really anything that TCox can do other than slowly retreat because they just have way fewer fetch. Fetch are easily able to counter the dwarves. They did lose a fetch earlier on the west flank, so now they've got 5 fetch versus 9, which again is tough. There's really no way that you're going to win that fight unless somebody really screws something up. So Chicken Wire and Storm Rider are now pushing in on Ska. Eventually, once this third fetch gets lined up, you'd expect them to be able to come in and clean this up, but it's going to take a while. And really, they don't have a ton of time. They're getting zapped here. So again, if we see how this is playing out, it's kind of as we expected. Small percent lead, but all of the momentum is on the side of name changers. It's 6 minutes. So they still have some time, but at this point, you really want to do the bulk of your fighting over the next 3 to 4 minutes, I'd say, to make sure that you leave yourself enough time to reposition. Because the bulk of Thundercox and NP's forces are falling back into an area where there's no flag, right? So even if you kill them here with 2 minutes left, if you're not in a position to tag on a map with this many tags, it's going to be an issue. Continue to fast forward. Okay, mistake there from Ska. Again, as expected, started to get pressure from both sides. Loses both dwarves. At this point, the D flag is totally dead. That's okay, because Name Changers has control of these 2 southwest flags, and they've got some tagging spiders that are running around. So would have been great if he could continue to keep these forces occupied for longer, just by playing a little bit more conservatively, but not the biggest deal. MP continues to run. At this point, I would say, I really want to see Name Changers do a really aggressive push here. That's a little bit harder with a dwarf. It is red, but I think they need to do some more BC damage, down a little bit in percent, because otherwise, this may just turn into a foot race. They're backing off. I can see this. Lude says, let's hold where they are. In theory here, if you can keep them pinned in, as I mentioned, this is an area where they don't have taggers. You're able to potentially win a tagging game. The challenge with that, from my perspective, is that MP has a lot more. They've got 24% already on the northern side of the map. So while Name Changers is sending tagging squads, they've got nothing that can deal with these fetch. So their only hope is to do hit and runs or grab tags in areas where MP's not. They can still pull this off. It's just they've now gotten into a position where their forces on the south side have been diluted. They can no longer BC this down. And I think they may have a difficult time dealing with the artillery that NP has on the northern side of the map. Not a lot to see here. Some posturing with the Trow. NP is starting to spread out from this hill that they had kind of, fallen back to. So I think at this point, their strategy, they're looking to try to hold these two southern flags. They've got a couple of secure flags over here. And then the bet that they're making is that they're going to be able to maintain pressure and tags in the north using their advantage by having these fetch and Solus. Whereas Name Changers has really only sent some taggers. They did send Scheister's fetch. It's going to be hard for him to go uphill against this dwarf, and you got a dwarf over here too. So we'll see if they're able to do anything. Fast forwarding, again, 2 minutes left. At this point, I don't know. I mean, it's close. I think either team could still win. Scheister's trying to push up against his dwarf. Good job of getting a block in. Looks like he is going to be able to kill this. Did lose at least one fetch. But end of the day, he's going to be able to get control of this flag. I think losing that fetch isn't going to matter much. It's not like he was going to be able to get all the way up and around unless there's a really long contest period. But at this point, that should secure these two west flags for Scott's team. You can see they've circled this flag on the southwest side. They want to get a tag there. Percent lead has grown, so NP Cox is now up, looks like 14% as a result of those engagements. Zer's being more and more aggressive. So right now, little criticism here. Limp does get separated from these Zerks. He may have got him handed off. It looks like Lude gave him to him. Let's Zer get those kicks, which would have allowed him to actually fight the Trow. But at this point, Limp is down a bit in Trow health. And really, with most players, you don't really want to try to Trow fight Zer. If you do that, you're playing into his hands since that's his game. Instead, you want to hope that Zer gets impatient and does something dumb, which could always happen. At any moment, he could be glorious or he could be, fairly terrible. NP Cox is sit enough here to the north to secure this flag. Scheister's pushing through. I think the big question is going to be, can they do anything here? Chicken Wire is not watching this dwarf, it appears. So we'll slow this down. Looks like that spider is going to take out the dwarf. That's a really big play. So shout out to CU. Meanwhile, Zer is suiciding. He does trade Trow relatively well. Made a micro misplay there where he could have frozen a second Trow. Not a big deal. We'll actually say that Zer, if he had not contested here, the game would have ended and NP would have won. However, he does contest. That opens up time for additional contesting. But end of the day, NP is able to run off melee here. They're able to run off melee on the east. They were able to recover from losing that dwarf, retake this tag with spiders. So at this point, 9 flags to 6. Nothing's contesting and the game ends. So, nitpicking, I think, if you could do this over again, you'd want CU to be dancing on this flag, to keep a contest on. Even if he ends up losing those units, you buy yourself some time. Limp's got 2 Trow, so maybe he can tag this west flag. I don't know that he's got enough time to get all the way over here. So I think it would have been hard for them to pull it off even if they're contesting. But highly competitive game 1. Looking at the damage, I'd say good job to Chicken Wire. He was really the power of that offense that managed to take them out. Good job for the rest of NP Cox in dying slowly. On the side of Name Changers, looks like, Limp did a good job. I think he won that Trow fight in the end, did a good job of keeping Zer from really doing anything in regulation. So close game, and that's game 1.